Hi, welcome. Happy Valentine's week. Today I decided to make my raspberry chocolate macarons, but I could not find freeze-dried raspberries, which is where I get all of the flavor for these. So instead I decided to make strawberry chocolate macarons. And the great thing is the freeze-dried, you can use any of the freeze-dried fruits to get the flavor that you're looking for this recipe. So strawberries and raspberries are pretty interchangeable when it comes to the recipe. I mean, obviously the flavor is going to be a little bit different, but how you make them is going to be the same. So first off, a couple of tips. Let's talk egg whites. So egg whites and making and whipping them up into peaks is what gives these the air that they need to then expand when they're cooking. So they're a very important role. Aged egg whites are actually better than fresh ones. So I recommend, I'm actually using pasteurized egg whites today because it was the last minute decision and I didn't have time to age normal egg whites. So what you want to do is crack your egg whites about at a minimum of 2 days and up to a week ahead of time, ahead of cooking time, and then you can just leave them in the fridge. And as they age, the protein will break down in the refrigerator. They will the refrigerator will evaporate some of the water, and it will leave you with some aged egg whites, which is perfect. Anytime I make like an ice cream recipe and I have a lot of egg whites left, I always make macarons. So you want about 4 large egg whites for this. We're looking for about 130 grams or 4.7 ounces or 4 large egg whites. So that's what we're going for. The other tip for these is, man, where did I write down the other tip? My brain is going a little bit wonky now. Hold on. I have a couple of tips, but I had another one that I wanted to do at the beginning. Now I remember. Very important. You want to try to do this on a dry day. Wet day, whether it's rain or snow or when the barometer is changing, kind of like candy making. If you have a wet or humid day, you could end up with cracked macarons. So the negative about doing lives every Tuesday is that I don't have a lot of control over the weather. My first batch that I did earlier today, I did get some cracking in my shell. So I left my oven on in my kitchen to kind of help air things out. The other thing you can do is if you have an air conditioner, run an air conditioner because air conditioners will also help dry things out. And I made another batch and hopefully they're in the oven right now. So fingers crossed these will rise properly. So even when you've made them as often as me, you can still have problems. Alexa, stop. All right, that's the first round of the second batch. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes. All right, they're close. They're not quite there, but
2 minutes, starting now.
They at least have some feet. I'm afraid I made them a little bit big. And so anyway, we shall see. You can still have mistakes, but these, I think that macarons are worth giving a shot. Now, there are so many different recipes out there. This is the one that I have used for years. I originally got it and tweaked it from Not So Humble Pie. The thing that I like about this recipe is that I don't have to cook the sugar and syrup. It's another reason I'm using pasteurized egg whites because they're going to heat up in the oven, so I don't really worry about the temperature of the eggs. It's about that early meringue. So by using pasteurized egg whites, like I do in my cheater Swiss meringue buttercream, I'm hoping that will help. But anyway, hello from Georgetown. You sound like you're underwater. Oh my word. You guys, I don't get it. How about on Facebook? Hold on. Forgot to turn on Facebook comments. You guys, I do not know what's going on with the sound. Every time I do a test, the sound works just fine. Facebook says the sound works just fine. We're only having issues with the sound on YouTube, and it's on YouTube's end. It's nothing that I have control over, so it's nothing that I can change. I don't know what else to try. I've tried a lot of things. Fancy Family, hello. Yes, my hair is very long. Thank you so much. Antonio, if you want to learn how I made the tamatoa cake, you just watch the video. Like I tell everything about it, and the instructions are written down in, like all of my recipes, the instructions are written down in the comment box or in the description box of YouTube. Hello from Trash Town. Yes, this is a cooking show. Okay, so Alexa, stop. Pull these out and put the next batch in. And the first thing that I'm going to do is actually take these off the hot pan to help them cool quicker. So I immediately slide them off onto a counter. Alexa, set timer 17 minutes. Okay, let's...
17 minutes, starting now.
Man, she's really loud. Let's turn her down. All right, let's start our batter. The first thing that I'm going to do is mix our dry ingredients. So to help move things along, I had actually already crushed up all of my dried, my freeze-dried berries. And the reason that I do freeze-dried berries, hold on, we're gonna, come on. All right, break that up a little bit again. Is if you try to add real berries, that's a lot of liquid and not a really strong concentrated flavor, and it really messes up the balance between the dry and the egg whites ingredients. And so I like to use freeze-dried and grind them up into a powder and just mix them in with the other powder ingredients, and I feel like I get a stronger flavor and I'm not messing up the balance of the baked cookies. So the other thing you'll notice is that I have my scale right here, and I've already pre-measured this stuff out, but it's a really easy way using a scale for precise recipes like this. So this is 15 grams of freeze-dried raspberries, and then we want to add about 125 grams of ground almond flour. I'm going to zero it out again, add the powdered sugar, and we want about 220 grams of powdered sugar. All right. And then I'm gonna grind this up. Sometimes that almond flour or the ground berries can kind of get stuck to the bottom, so just gonna kind of scrape the bottom up a little bit. Run this one more time. That's a lot more pink than it was before. The next thing that we want to do is to sift this, and you want to sift it at least twice. So I have a bowl with my sifter here. We're just going to pour a lot more stuck on the bottom than usual. And just sift it. Because of the freeze-dried strawberries, you'll probably get some seeds. Now, the dry ingredients like the flour and stuff, I want to break up. But I don't want to like push the seeds through unnecessarily. So I break it up once, and then the rest of this I'm just going to throw in the garbage. And then we're going to do it again. And you want to sift it at least twice. If you're still getting some clumps, go ahead and do it a third time as well. We really want this nice and airy. All right, so this time I have a little bit less of those seeds and stuff. Again, just toss that. We're going to put that aside. All right, now we're going to wipe down the counter real fast. Like to just keep things clean. It tends to get messy easily. All right. So now we're going to take some dried egg whites. This is not meringue powder that I use for royal icing, but it's actually dried egg whites, and some sugar. And this is normal granulated sugar. And that granulated sugar will help mix, get rid of any clumps. And this dried egg whites. And this is just going to give us some more strength to our egg whites. And now I'm going to get out one of my favorite things, my copper bowl. Now copper is the very best thing that you can whip egg whites in. The chemical reaction between the copper and the egg whites helps stabilize those egg whites. It helps them beat up faster and it helps them hold the bubbles longer. So we're going to, oops, my thing came unplugged. So we're going to pour our egg whites right in our bowl. And just on low, we're going to beat it till it's a little bit foamy. Once it starts getting foamy, we're going to add some cream of tartar. And cream of tartar also helps give strength and volume to egg whites. And by adding them when your eggs are already foamy, they'll incorporate a little bit better. Now, while we're still on low, hold on, I'm bringing the other camera in so we can get a good side angle. While we're still on low, we're going to sprinkle this in while I'm beating. This is our sugar dried egg white mixture. That's also going to help give this more stability. Now this is instead of cooking our egg whites or cooking the sugar, turning a sugar syrup and adding that to the egg whites, which is more of a French method. They're both great, right? Just use the one that you like best. I've used both and I've had success with both. All right. Oops, I want to go with this shot. Once that's all sprinkled in, we're going to turn this up to high. And we're going to beat this until we get almost stiff teeth. And it should take about 3 to 4 minutes. peaks, nice little, but we want to go until we're hitting almost stiff peaks. We're getting closer, but not quite there yet. Oh, so close. All right, perfect. So you see how hold on, it's a little bit bright, sorry. All right, see how this came up, but it also kind of fell over a little bit? We are good to go. Now we're going to slowly fold in our dry ingredients to our egg whites. Now, as you fold in, obviously this is going to deflate our egg whites a little bit. So the trick to macaron batters is to not over deflate your egg whites. We want to mix it in enough that it's all mixed, but we don't want to over mix it so the eggs completely deflate and we just are left with a puddle. I've seen a lot of recipes that call for a specific number of strokes. They say 40 strokes is like perfect for doing this. When I was in France and Paris and took a macaron class, he said it was really more about getting the right look. And so he did something really unique. After he did his 40 strokes and everything was incorporated, he picked it up and plopped it down to see if it was right. And it was he felt it was still a little bit overly fluffy. I didn't know it could be a problem. I had always heard so much about don't over deflate, but he's like, these need to deflate a little bit more. And he took his bowl and he really quickly wrapped his spatula in the bowl against the sides and purposefully deflated the mixture a little bit extra without overly folding it in. And so I thought that was an interesting thing that I hadn't heard or seen before. So what we're going to do is pour in about a third of our mixture. And to fold, you come underneath and lay it over the top. Underneath and lay it over the top. Underneath and lay it over the top. But I go from over the top, you go above. Underneath and go above. So it's mostly just kind of falls onto itself. You're actually not spreading it. You're going underneath and going over. Underneath and going over. Underneath and going over. And add another third. Underneath, go over, underneath, go over. And you want to complete the circle. You don't just want to go underneath and then stop. You really want to carry that motion over. That's where that folding is coming in. just continue. Because I'm talking, I have not been counting, but I think I'm probably, I don't know if anybody else has been counting. I'm guessing I'm probably around 30. Let me give it a quick scrape to the sides. Turn my bowl a little bit. Scrape the bottom. All right, I think I have found all of the dry sections in here. It looks like it's pretty mixed together. So I'm going to take some of this mixture and shake it down. And see how we're just getting a lot of breaking here at the bottom of the spatula? It's still kind of a little bit chunky. We want this to be a little bit more smooth points. So you can either fold a couple times, right? And then try it again. You can already see how much smoother and ribbony that batter is. We're getting better points. And if you want to do the technique that I learned in France, he actually just put his spatula on here and really quickly went. And that breaks up, see how you could see some of those air bubbles pop? It just breaks up some of that, some of those great bubbles that we created when we whipped the eggs. But we're getting really nice ribbons. And this is breaking, as you can see, in much smoother points off the spatula. So we are ready to go here. I don't want to keep mixing it because then I will over deflate the mixture. So I'm going to get my piping tip, round piping tip, and piping bag. Because, Alexa, stop. Alexa, set timer 3 minutes. All right, since I'm just one person and it's hard to fill a piping bag, especially with something liquid that's going to be dripping out of this large hole, I'm going to fold this under, stick it in my cup, and fold the edges down. And this is going to help me be able to fill this bag without without multiple hands. All right, I'm going to bring the cookie sheet over. And there are two schools of thought. People who like silpat mats and people who like parchment. Now I tend to be the parchment route. One of the reasons that I like parchment is when I'm doing traditional circles, I print off a template and then I know exactly what size to make all of my cookies so that they're all equal in size and easier to make sandwiches of later. Because I'm doing hearts today, I'm going to be freehanding. So anyway, but I've used both. Some people really prefer silpat. Some people really prefer parchment paper. I will say I haven't had like one way or the other a really good or really bad experience. So I just tend to stick with the parchment paper because I like being able to see the template underneath. All right. So now, oh, come on camera, there we go. All right. So now I'm going to make my hearts and I'm just going to freehand. So I'm start, let's see, can you see that? Just gonna make a blob and then stop squeezing and bring it down to a point. Make a blob, stop squeezing, bring it down to a point. way too. You can get a little bit trickier to do them upside down. And remember, the batter's flowing out of this. Alexa, stop. I prefer doing them all right side up if I can, but just to show you how you can save space, right? You can go up and down. All right, do another row. Now remember that the batter spreads. All right, hold on, I have cookies out. All right, so here is the batch that just came out of the oven, and you can see the feet on them. Because I made them so large, such big hearts, the feet aren't going to look quite as tall as if you make the cookies a little bit smaller. But overall, I don't know if you can see the feet on this one. Overall, they have decent feet. I wish I'd just gone smaller with them. It's my only negative. Putting these over on the counter to cool quickly. The other thing I want to talk about is after you get these ready to go and you've piped them all on, you don't put them in the oven right away. You actually leave them out for about half an hour to develop a skin. Let's see if I touch this. See how it, I don't know, can you see how I dented that? Right? But none came away on my finger. What happens is Alexa, set timer 17 minutes. So if you look at the ones that I just did, if I touch them, right, they're wet and they come off. What happens is that skin that develops actually helps them bake, holding their shape, and all of those bubbles in the batter doesn't have anywhere to go but up, and so then the cookies should rise up, and that's what creates the feet at the bottom of the macarons. When they explode out of the center, that typically means that it's a little bit too moist, or they have too much air inside of them. You didn't deflate them enough. There's that balance between over deflating them won't give you any feet because there won't be any bubbles to rise. Under deflating them so that they're still a little too bubbly means there's too much air and has nowhere to come but out. So it's a little bit of a balance between the two. All right, so let's get back to these. Great, I just made a big spill on my counter. And I'm trying, since I'm just freehanding these, I'm trying to get them as close as possible. Now notice the ones that I just piped, right, are fatter and smaller than the ones that I piped first. This batter is liquidy. It does spread as you give it time. So that's why you always want to pipe them a little smaller than you want them. The other thing that you do, once you have a full tray, you're going to take your tray and shake it a couple times on the counter. What that's going to do is bring any massive bubbles that are in the cookies up to the surface. I don't know if you can see this one. So see how this bubbles right here at the surface? I'm going to pop it really quickly with my with a toothpick, because really big bubbles are not something that we want in our cookies. So I'm just going to go through and look for any big bubbles that brought themselves to the surface. And this will also help prevent those explosions from the cookies when they go like this, right? The other thing that you can do at this stage while they're still wet is fix any shaping, right? Let's say that this one right here doesn't come to enough of a point for me. So I'm going to kind of bring it to more of a point, right? This one has this extra little growth right here. I'm going to take care of that. All right. Anyway, so you can do a little bit of cleaning up at this stage. You don't want to overplay with them because we still do want bubbles in here to help it rise, right? But anyway, so, and we want to give them time to develop that skin on the top. So don't overplay with them. So I'm going to set this aside. And you want to let them dry, get that skin for, I was originally told an hour. In Paris, they said 30 minutes was enough. I think it really depends on how dry your environment is. One thing that you can do is you can just drop a little blob, like a little spot over in the corner of your pan, and you can use that as your touch test because you don't want to ruin one of your pretty little hearts, right? So, I just found another bubble. Hold on. Up, up, up. Okay, so set these aside and then keep piping until your batter's gone, right? And you want to pipe all of your batter at the same time, so like right now. While I'm waiting for my batter to get skins, this is a great time to make the filling. So that is what we're going to do now. So for today's filling, because I wanted to be Valentine-y, and I was thinking strawberries and chocolate, raspberry and chocolate, we're going to just make a ganache center. So I have a camera that works. Oops, wrong way. There you go. So I have some semi-sweet chocolate, and I have some heavy whipping cream. Now this is such a small amount of heavy whipping cream that it's not going to cook easily on the stove. And so I am going to microwave it. Now typically I don't like microwaving whipping cream for ganache because if your cream boils, it's going to make your ganache break and be grainy. You want it to just barely start having heat come off of it before you add it to your chocolate. So typically it's much better to cook your cream on the stove. When it's a small amount like this, that's really hard to do. So you can use a microwave, just watch it very carefully. This is how I'm going to get cancer right here. And every 30 seconds, I open it up and just give it a quick stir. It usually only takes about 45 seconds before I see a couple bubbles on the sides. You want to watch it carefully. Okay. Whew. As soon as you see any growth or bubbling, you're going to pull that cream out. Better to have it a little underheated than have it overboil and break your ganache. So then I give it a little shake because I want all that chocolate to sink into that warm cream. I like to add some parchment paper, or not parchment paper, plastic wrap to the top just to help seal in that heat. Because what we want now is for, sorry, we're going to wipe down the counter again. We want that warm cream to surround all that chocolate and soften the chocolate and melt it. If we started stirring right away, the chocolate doesn't have enough time to properly melt, and every time you stir, you're actually cooling down the cream, right? So, and if you wait too long, then both things cool, and all of that melty goodness that you get from waiting for your chocolate, from the warm cream melting your chocolate, if you wait too long and they both cool down, the chocolate starts to reform and also won't melt. Now, I probably should have chopped this chocolate a little bit because then the pieces are small enough that 5 minute span that I think is just perfect for making ganache, where the cream has a chance to melt the chocolate without it getting too cool, it'll be perfect. I left these chunks a little bit big on purpose to show you how you can fix it if it's not quite melted enough when we start to stir. So Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes. So we're going to wait this 5 minutes. And I'm going to talk about one other thing that I do to help with flavoring these cookies. Because like the thing that I didn't like about macarons the first time that I tried them is I'm like, they're just kind of airy, flavorless little things. And so I learned that if you take a flavored syrup, strawberry or raspberry, whichever one that you are doing, and brush some on to the bottom of your shells before you put the filling in and put them together, it does two things. One, it adds some more concentrated flavor to your cookies, and it helps the maturation process of these cookies. If you have ever made these and you've eaten them right away, you have been messing up your opportunity for a better cookie. When they sell these in high-end stores, and when I learned how to make these in France, they recommend you wait at least a day after filling these to eat them, because that filling will have a chance to, so you have dried shell filling, and that filling has a chance then to kind of, when you first put them together, there's still three separate components. Yes, they're stuck together, but they're not really incorporated. That extra day gives them a chance to incorporate into each other, and that where the cookie and the filling meet becomes more, I don't know how to say this other than use the word moist, which I know people don't like. And it matures this whole process together. And by adding a little bit of liquid to those shells before we put them together, it actually hurries that process along, and they can be ready to eat quickly. So what I always challenge people to do when they make these for the first time, make a bunch. Right after you finish, go ahead and try one. See what you think. Then wait a day. Go ahead and try one. See what you think. Wait another day. Go ahead and try one. See what you think. And that window between day 1 and day 3 are really the sweet spot. After that, for me personally, I think day 1 and day 2 are okay. I think day 3 is too moist, but that's a personal preference. Everybody has their own thing. Now, technically, they're safe to eat for a week after filling. Just keep them in the refrigerator depending on the filling that you're using. If you are not planning on eating them right away, you can freeze the shells without the filling in them, and they will last a lot longer. Okay, so let's bring some over. So this was the first batch that came out of the oven when I was first starting. And the real trick is to get these off without pulling all the bottom off. Because when you, oh, poop head. I probably should have let these cook another 2 minutes. If your filling gets left on your pad, then that means you're losing all your cookie, right? Well, gosh darn it. Poop. And this is one of the reasons people don't like the Silpat mat. They say it sticks more. Usually I would give them a little bit more time to cool completely. But I want to obviously move on with these. All right, so I'm going to take a couple of these off. Oh, I just broke these. All right. All right, let's bring some over from the parchment paper set. Now, these have not cooled very long. I'm a little nervous about trying to pop these off. Ideally, I would leave them on for probably another half hour before I started pulling them off. All right, well, they came off a little bit better, and if I had waited, oops, sorry, I thought the other camera was on. If I waited a couple more minutes, they'd probably just pop off really easily. These are still just a little bit warm. So, there's this balance, especially when you're doing light colored ones, where they're cooked enough that they're going to pop off easily later, and they're not quite cooked enough. But the other balance that you're looking for is the coloring, right? It's these, as you can see, we're starting to go, maybe you can't see, but they're starting to get a little gold on the outside, and I'm losing, Alexa, stop. I'm losing some of that pink, right? So there's that balance of cooking them long enough that they don't go yellow on the sides, but enough that they still pop off easily. So, flip to the side, bring in our ganache. And see how that chocolate is all shiny now, right? Even the stuff that's sticking out. It means it started getting all melty. Oh, look at that. We're getting great melted bits of chocolate. So I'm going to stir this together until the cream and the chocolate are completely melted and incorporated and nice and smooth, and there are no chocolate chunks left. Now, don't give up right away if it still looks a little chunky like this one does. Give your cream time to continue to heat and melt this up as you go. I also think that cream that you've heated on the stove stays warmer longer and helps get a better ganache than microwaved cream, which is another reason I don't typically use that. All right, so we have some chunks still, right? I'm just going to move on. And there's two options. When I'm making a larger batch, I do a double boiler. So I take a pan of water, let it boil, and put this over the top, and that steam heats up this bowl without direct heat from the stove, and it'll help melt all that chocolate. Since this is a smaller amount, I'm actually going to use my microwave again and do my milk chocolate button. Now this is set for 8 ounces, so it does about 2.5 minutes. I'm going to stop it after 1 minute, and that should be plenty to get rid of those last little cracks. All right, let's see about taking off some more shells. The other nice thing about parchment is it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to bend, and so it's easier to pull off the cookies if I am getting a little bit of sticking. Now the nice thing about using a template and doing circles is that it's pretty easy to match up in the sizes, right? When you're doing shapes like this, it can be a lot harder to match up. Ooh, this one did not want to come. Alexa, stop. All right, one of the other things that you might have noticed, or maybe you haven't, is that I have this wooden spoon right here sticking up out of my oven door. That's another trick that I learned in Paris. My teacher there, oops, I forgot about the chocolate. Ooh, this got way too hot. My teacher in Paris did that trick. He cooked them a little bit more low and slow than I had done with my macarons in the past. And his reasoning for that, Okay, the chocolate's totally melted. The negative about overheating is not that it's going to cause damage to the chocolate, it's just that now that it's so warm, it's going to take longer to cool down to get to the coolness level and thickness level to be able to pipe them into the cookies easily. Put that off to the side. Luckily, I made some earlier, so we wouldn't have to deal with that. So this one was made much earlier, so it's had time to cool, and it's going to be easy to pipe into the cookies now. So that's what I'm going to do next. Alexa, set timer 3 minutes. Anyway, so by leaving the door open a crack, it's helping with that humidity level. It's helping keep these really, really dry because it keeps your oven on constantly to have it slightly cracked open. So that's another trick that I do. All right, let's get these last couple cookies off with parchment paper, and then we will put them together. Anyway, so for the first 17 minutes, so I'm cooking these at 250 because they're a lighter color. If I'm doing a darker color, I'll cook them a little bit hotter, but again, I'm trying to keep these light and avoid that gold shade. So I'm cooking these at 250 for 17 minutes with the door slightly cracked open, and then I'm closing the door and cooking them for another 3 minutes and then checking and seeing the gold level. Okay. I need a little bowl. And I need a piping bag. Okay, so now we're going to bring all the components together and put these cookies together. So I have the cookies. I have ganache in a piping bag. And I have some of that syrup in a bowl. So now what we want to try to do is match a couple of these sizes up. All right, so those look like they'll match decently. So I'm just going to take a little brushing of this syrup and brush the bottom of the two halves. Going to, and I don't want to pipe all the way to the edge because when we squish these together, it will push the ganache out. So you could add, since these are so big, you could add a little bit of strawberry or raspberry jam into the center of these as well. I'm just going to put them together. Oops. Maybe I want to bring it a little closer to the edge. I'm used to making these smaller. I went a little heavy-handed today. So put them together, give it a little squish to help kind of. All right, let's try another one. Alexa, stop. Burned myself on the cookie pan. Okay. I'm trying to. So these are about the same size, but because they kind of point in different directions, they're going to have some issues on the bottom. So that's another reason that I go in with that toothpick and I try to like fix problems with the heart so that they are a little bit more matchy. You could draw yourself out some heart templates to help avoid this. I should have drawn some out just so I didn't avoid making them so big. Some other fillings that I've used are buttercream, ganache, my homemade marshmallow frosting, jams and jellies. All right, we'll make one more, and then we will call today good. Obviously, you can make this same flavor the rest of the year and not make hearts and be just fine. All right. The syrup is getting all over. Okay. That's weird. Over on my connection, it says that the stream is healthy, but where I'm watching over on YouTube, it's paused. So the joys of technology. Okay. So we made our shells. We piped them. We let them dry. We baked them. We let them cool. We made our ganache filling, and we used some syrup to help amplify the flavor and hurry along the process of merging these cookies and fillings together. So that is everything. Like I said, typically I would wait till tomorrow to enjoy them, and that will also help. Not only does it help kind of soften that center of the cookie and merge it together with the filling, it also helps the filling kind of not break up, but emulsify itself into everything. Anyway, it just becomes more cohesive as a cookie. So let's take one of these and just break it in half so you guys can see one of the shells by themselves. All right. And then let's take one of these and bite into it. So what we're looking for is to get that crunch from the outside shell and to get this melted medley on the inside. That tastes so good. Now, if you are not happy with the level of pink that your cookies are, you can always add food dye. I don't recommend doing that after you've gotten the batter just right, because any more stirring obviously is going to cause some problems. What I would recommend is either adding dried food dye along with the powder at the same time you're adding that freeze-dried strawberry or raspberry to this. You can add some red or pink powdered food dye. Or when you're whipping the eggs and you're getting close to the stiff peaks, you can also add a couple drops of dye into that and have those colored egg whites help strengthen the color of your final batter as well, if that makes sense. Anyway, I am going to catch up on comments. Sorry. I'm going to catch up on comments, and then I will say see you next week. If anybody out there is a technology specialist, it can help me figure out why YouTube doesn't sound right and Facebook does, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Anyway, for those of you leaving, I will see you next week. Don't forget to put in the comments if you have any requests for future videos. Okay. Your grandchildren will love them. I hope they do, Kathy. Miguel, do I sleep? Yes, I do sleep. For me, it is 5:30 in the evening, so I won't sleep for quite a while. Stacy, you like my hair long? Thank you so much. Coyote Moon, I sound like a robot. I am sorry about that. I'm not a Cylon. They are much thinner than me. Paige, hopefully they turned out good and you like them. Can you do this with a stand mixer? Diana, that's a great question. You can beat the egg whites with a stand mixer. I don't recommend a plastic bowl because plastic tends to hold on to grease, and then you're going to have a real difficult time whipping up the egg whites to stiff peaks. My preferred metal bowl for egg whites is copper. But if you don't have copper, then a stainless steel bowl should work just fine. And if you don't have that, then a glass bowl will be okay. But you can do that in a stand mixer. You could even mix your dry ingredients together with a mixer. But once you sift them, I wouldn't mix them again. And once you add the dry to the egg whites and you're folding carefully, I would not do that part in a mixer. You will deflate those eggs so fast. Do I have sugar cookie recipe on your website? Yes, Paige. I actually have a couple. I have like a rollout, sour cream rollout sugar cookie that you use cutouts with and you frost. And then I have a sugar cookie recipe that's like a standalone sugar cookie. Like melts in your mouth sugar cookie, so good. It's not Valentine's Day yet. It's not, but you want to make these ahead of time. And I don't go live on Sundays. I'm glad that you like my shirt. Thank you. It's covered in hearts, so I thought it would be appropriate. You're making key lime pie for Valentine's Day dessert. Paige, that sounds amazing. Kitty, you haven't been around for a while, but you'll be rewatching this with your son later. He loves my videos. Oh, that is so sweet. Tell him hello for me. Hello, Kitty son. How to make a 1-minute red velvet cake. I do not specialize in fast 1-minute stuff because typically in order to do that you're using box mixes and stuff like that, and I do everything from scratch. I do have my classic airy red velvet cupcake recipe on the blog, and I was actually thinking about doing my dense carving red velvet cake this week, but I decided that these would be a little bit more Valentine's-y, but I will be doing a video for that one soon. Where do I get the syrup? Costco has some syrups. Grocery stores have some syrups. This is like in the coffee aisle, right? These are the syrups that you would use for Italian sodas, or some people put them in flavor their coffee. I like to flavor my hot chocolate with them. Or specialty, like restaurant supply stores will have them as well, and you can order them on Amazon. There's a couple different brands out there that are good, and they're all pretty much the same to me. I don't have one that I prefer over the other. Thank you, you look lovely. Thank you so much, Sue. That's very sweet. Confettiani, delicious. Yes, they are. All right, catch up over here on Facebook now. Everybody, thanks for being so patient. I know I wasn't interacting a lot today. Between YouTube and... Oh, did my timer go off? Okay, I pulled them out. For a second there was like, oh no, I left it too long. Margaret, hello, welcome. Forrest, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Debbie, come back. I am here. Sherry, Vanessa, thanks for letting me know the volume was working. Grace, you like my hair today? Thank you so much. She thought macaroons had 2 O's. George, that is the coconut. Those are coconut macaroons. And they're a totally different cookie. These have 1 O, and they're like French and Italian, and they're macarons. It's a different cookie, yes. Mike, it's a different cookie. He's correct. Your hair's so long and pretty. Thank you, Carolee. I haven't seen you in years. You wish you were a neighbor and pop in for a visit. Well, if you're ever near Centerville, just give me a call and you can pop by. I always have something. Jill, trust me, you don't want to... I'm assuming you're saying you don't want to be her neighbor because you won't fit into your pants anymore. Jill lives about 5 minutes away from me, and she definitely helps me out getting rid of some of these goodies. Elizabeth, thanks for sharing. You're so welcome. Brooke Baker, you're late. What kind of syrup is that? I think I answered that. Let me know if you want more details. Raspberry or chocolate or strawberry syrup and a light brush on the inside helps the filling carry together everything. Yes, Viola, that is exactly right. How do I watch the replay of this video? Once I push end, it takes a little bit of time, I think, to do a final processing, and then it will be over on my Facebook page or my YouTube channel forever. Margaret, love these cookies. Can't wait to try them. I also have over my blog a s'more version, a peppermint version. I think those are the only flavors I've actually put on my blog, but you can, as you can see with these, you can do so many different fun things, so many different combinations of flavors, and really, really enjoy these. So I would recommend making them smaller. These are definitely a little bit big. Plus, the smaller they are, the more difference you'll get, the feet will be more impressive, right? Because a cookie this big with this size of feet will look a lot better than a cookie this big with this size of feet. Anyway, thanks you all for joining me this week. I will see you next Tuesday. Hope you guys all have a magnificent week. Happy Valentine's Day, and enjoy being with your loved ones this weekend. Bye. Maybe not. All right. Fingers crossed.